Rose Marie has been excused ahead of time. If she's able to join us, she will. Take it away.
Chair Sue Lester,
Here.
Vice Chair Michael Toe,
Here.
Jeff Arbor,
Here.
Cindy Brenneman,
Here.
Xerxes Kalilong, Dicky Fernandez, Craig Holmes,
Here.
Paul Lancaster,
Here.
Brooke Natsky,
Here.
and Cheyenne Wright. Thank you.
Okay, before we open the floor to public comments, I would just like to welcome Brooke and Cheyenne, our newest members, to the Citizen Advisory Committee, and welcome back the members that reapplied and got appointed. And hopefully at the end of the meeting, you'll like to share something with everybody. If you would like to share something personal about yourselves with everybody, that would be a great time to do it. Public comments. Do we have anybody online? I don't see anyone in here. Okay, public comment is opened and closed. First item is to approve the Citizen Advisory Committee meeting minutes from March 12th, 2025. And before I ask if anyone has a motion, I have a question. At the end of the last meeting, I said when the meeting was going to be, which is not today because it was a different date and we changed it. And I noticed it's not on the minutes here, but I didn't know if we need to put an addendum somewhere online. So if somebody reads it, they know they're not looking for a meeting on a date that it didn't happen. Or if it's a moot point.
Put an addendum, sure.
But yeah, so if we can do that, if we can put an addendum that the meeting was changed, then with that change in mind, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, we're good. Moving right along. Item number 2, the recycling and landfill waste composition studies 1 through 8. Scott, are you going to be?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Actually, I'm going to introduce to Marissa Pareda, and then she's going to introduce our guest speaker for tonight.
Perfect.
Good evening, Chair and committee members. City Green Consulting conducted the first of our waste composition studies for the new landfill and recycling carts. 8 studies have been conducted so far. Those were completed in March and April. Overall contamination in the recycling cart averaged 44.38%, and contamination in the landfill cart averaged 30.33%. Mike Vallier, president of City Green Consulting, is here to provide an oral report of the study's findings. I'll turn it over to you, Mike.
All right, good evening, everybody. Basically, what we did was we did 8 studies, but there were 4 routes. So we looked at the trash containers for a route and then the recycling containers. We developed categories that we use for both. Green waste and food waste shouldn't be in either container. And then we have wet paper and cardboard, which we look at in the trash because potentially that's material that was contaminated by the trash, and if properly separated, could be recycled. Then we look at clean paper and cardboard and beverage containers and other recyclables like tinfoil, metals, things that are easily recyclable. We looked at the first route was the west side, bordered by Estancia High on the north and west and Fairview Park, Placentia on the east, and the Talbert Nature Preserve. As far as the trash route, they were one of the better ones as far as keeping organics out of the containers at only 12%. Again, ideally none, but we're progress, not perfection. Area 2 is West Side Harbor, Victoria 19th, and the western border of the city. They had about 18%, almost 19% organics as a comparison. The best one was the east side, Newport Boulevard, Tustin, East 20th Street and 22nd Street. They were at about 11%. And then the most challenge was on like a combination west and east. I guess it would be the very southern part of the city. 19th Street is the border to the north, Whittier to the west, Anaheim and Superior to the south, and then there's an eastern side of Newport Boulevard all the way over to the Newport Beach border. So that area had a whopping 37% organics. The impression that I got, because if you look at the recycling carts for that area, for example, the extreme southern area, south and east of Newport Boulevard, they did a very good job of getting recyclables into their container. So again, my suspicion and what I put in my reports is that some people are just using that recycling cart as an extra trash cart. That's why we're getting kitchen waste, food put in there. And again, one of the messages that we suggested is to let people know, hey, if you put something in the trash, it's no longer being sorted. That black container is not going to a MRF where they pick out recyclables. It's going to transfer and directly to the landfill. So, you know, gone and lost forever if it goes in that black container. Also, one of the things I suggested was look at the number of customers on those routes that had lost trash containers, you know, turned one in, they had two, and they got a recycling container. Again, those might be folks to really target with that message. Hey, if you put it in the black container, it's not going to be recycled. If we're going to err on the side of putting it in the recycling container, would be my suggestion, because again, C&R can process that material. They can recover a lot of it. And that's really, you know, the point that we're at is prohibited container contaminants. Things that shouldn't be in the recycling container are 40 to 50%. So that's high, but again, you're early in the process. So again, first 6 months of a program is a flushing out period, people getting used to that. They may not have looked at the education that came out the first time. So again, it's not unusual, but it's not ideal. So with that, I'll open it up for any questions.
I have a question. So I know it's new in the program, like you said, so that would explain why people are still doing the wrong thing. But how, from what you've seen for other cities that have transitioned to a 3-cart system, what's like the bulk of the learning curve where hopefully you would like to see some significant improvement over this number? And I imagine, I know it's different for everybody, so.
Yeah, again, it's challenging because a lot of those 3-cart programs have been around since AB 939 rolled out. So you're talking about the early 1990s.
Yeah.
Had these 3-cart programs, and they're still looking at about a 20% contamination rate. Nobody's perfect, so it's not like you should compare 40 to 0. You're at about twice ideal. But again, habits are hard to break. Again, we're still finding food waste in the trash container and also the recycling container. So there's clearly a percentage of folks that aren't getting the separation message. Despite a lot of efforts. So again, it's a challenge.
Do we have a target here? I guess I'd ask you, like, do we, I know, like, we want everyone to do it. But do you have like a percentage target that you're trying to hit that you'd be
Yeah.
happy with?
Contamination?
Yeah.
Mike, you can answer that. Mike?
Well, again, what we think is a realistic target is no more than 10% of the organic waste in the trash. So again, we're better and closer to that goal because you've had the food waste going in the organics cart for a while. The challenge is really those recyclables, separating them out and not using the recycling container as an extra trash container. And again, I think that issue would have one of two causes likely. Somebody lost a trash container and they weren't happy about it. And so now their trash container is a different color. Sorry, my attempt at humor. The other one would be that they don't have enough trash containers for the amount of residents at that property. So again, if they have no place to put it, they're going to put it in the container that has room. And usually that's, the recycling container.
Does anyone else have any questions?
In the study, was it pretty clear that they were prohibited items, or there were some items where someone might be a little confused because might,
Well,
may not be recycled.
We're very lucky that CRNR cooperates in the study, so we actually take folks off of their sorting line, and we have them sort materials as they would sort it, and then again, we go behind to make sure that there weren't errors. But again, they're pulling out clearly recyclable material. Again, it's very difficult with the fines and the materials that are left over to determine which of those would be recovered or not. So CRNR might do a slightly better job with recycling than we're finding just by sorting out the materials, because we don't know the diversion rate of the fines that we include in trash, because it's not clearly a recyclable material. And fines are little particles. Sorry, I'm so used to dealing with it, but that would be the item I'm referring to.
So I have a question about how do you continue to do outreach to areas that have 37% versus the 19%, that's high. We can just keep hammering the people that are 11 and 12% with the same message, but how do you target those two particular areas? Do you go to individual customers? Do you just pepper the area with materials?
Yeah,
I think we've done really good outreach, but there is still people are still confused.
Yeah, it would be targeting the door-to-door, the container flipping outreach would be looking at the areas that overall are performing much worse, so you can expend your resources better. You know, why go to an area that's doing the best job of who you looked at? Go to the one that has the most challenges. And then sadly, and most cities are facing this year and next year, there are some people that will not do it until there's a penalty in doing it. So the right thing, the carrot isn't always the motivator. And again, that's a challenge, but ultimately, if contamination is too high, there may need to be contamination fees charged on containers and other measures like that. But for now, again, my feeling is you're not doing bad for a brand new effort, particularly when other cities have been doing this since the 1990s. It's old habits that die hard.
Anyone else have any questions?
I thought that was good insight to use if you err on any side, you err on putting trash into the recycle because it gets.
That may not be the popular message, and CRNR may want to
No, it may not
zap
be.
me, but again, if it goes in the trash can, we know 100% certainty it's going in the landfill. If it goes in the recycling container, it has a chance of being recycled. Again, within reason. You don't want to put a bunch of food waste in the recycling container because that's going to damage good things that are in there. But if you have a paper product or a plastic product that's dry and you're not sure, again, I would err on the side of putting it in the recycling container. Then it has a chance of being recycled.
Hi, super interesting. Thank you. I have a couple questions. How would you know if someone doesn't have enough trash cans and would be needing an extra bin, according to your hypothesis?
That's a good question. Again, there's been a proliferation of ADUs and expanded uses of property. So that might be one area that might have been missed. I think the first pass is how many trash containers did these properties have before and how many have they lost? And those might be the ones to visit and do the lid flipping on to make sure that they're not just using an extra trash container. Again, you know, cost of living challenges these days. There's more people and look at, you know, who are the ADU properties, who are the, you know.
Can you look at the census?
I think, you know, the property records would probably reflect that. Again, it's not something that's really popped up for me, so that's not my area of expertise. But again, I would look at the historic trash service and the folks that lost or turned in trash containers for recycling containers. Those might be the areas to start with and your lid flipping.
Cool. I know for me, getting a compost bin here for free was a big game changer with disposing of organic waste in a more like convenient way, having it at home inside. So I would be really interested to see if delivering compost bins, we have these like small ones. I'm sure that that would make an impact for sure. So you had mentioned like a door knocking or more of a
Well, actually, there's.
hands-on approach to talking to customers?
Well, again, in doing the lid flipping, actually identifying the individual property, if there's an issue, then you have the ability to communicate with them directly. And typically that would be providing them some education. It can get kind of tricky because some people are like, I don't want you to come here and trash police me at my home. So it's a challenge. but
Totally.
I think.
Or maybe if we could like target the schools in those neighborhoods, send compost bins home with all the kids, something a little bit more like, yeah, positive and educational, not so creeping in your trash.
Talking, but I think a combination of both. I think tagging containers, letting people know that they have contamination. If it continues, the hauler may have to charge them a contamination fee because they can't process the material they're putting in there easily. And again, trying to get that message.
Yeah, totally. So that was a game changer for me, was when I actually got a compost bin that I could fit in my cabinet or whatever. I do have feedback on the letter too, the letter that we would send, the contamination education letter. I just want to be honest, there's a lot of jargon in it that I think a normal person wouldn't be like super compelled by. So maybe if we could like make it a little bit more normal sounding, like using terms like organic material. I don't think people know what that like literally means. So I'm sure CRNR probably wrote this.
Yeah, we can work with CRNR to adjust. the
Yeah,
letter.
like if a normal person read it, if we're lucky, if they read it at all,
But if they do, they have to understand it, like you
The
said. 'cause
visual
a lot of
chart is
people
great.
won't Read it,
That's
but
the
the ones
letter
that
you're-
do
the
have to be able
diagram
to
you're talking
understand
about?
it.
So it comes with a letter and then, yeah, the chart is great.
Yeah.
Sorry, it didn't download in a good format on my computer, but you get the vibe.
Yeah.
Even like ideally some nicer versions for people who are interested, like laminated or magnetized, right? But yeah, the chart is really good. And then last question is, when would we do the study again?
Well, the idea is to do 8 routes each calendar or each fiscal year. And so we have 4 more to do.
Cool.
Actually 2 more routes, but recycling and trash for each this year. So by the end of June. And then over the next year, we would do another sample. Now we don't go back to the same areas regularly, but we may want to include some of the most challenging areas from the previous year and look at those at the end of next year to see if there was improvement. And again, the other thing that you might look at on messaging is folks have been getting a lot of messaging on all the different programs. Before it was, hey, food waste, gotta go with this thing. And that messaging on this new recycling container. That's why I like something like, hey, if it goes in the trash container, it's buried in the landfill forever. And so it's like, a simple choice. All right, I'm not gonna put stuff in the trash. I'm gonna, figure out between these 2 containers and, here's a visual list of what you can put there. So it's mixing, matching, trial and error, see what actually gets a push. And that's where the lid flipping and doing direct messaging to those folks that have issues, you could try a couple different approaches there and see what works better.
Well, part of the issue too, I think, was that at one point, nobody really knew what anybody had. So we had people in our city that had 4 trash cans and they weren't being charged for them. So when they started getting charged for them after like the rollout of the 3-cart system and they went around, they counted everything, people discovered they were gonna get charged $9 extra for every trash can they had. So if you have somebody that's used to having 4 trash cans, now they don't wanna pay for them. So they turn them in and they're just stuffing their stuff, God knows where. And a lot of it could be, you know, in the neighbors that has room in the middle of the night. Like I think there's kind of a number of things happening that we're gonna have to overcome. But at the end of the day, I think, you know, at some point, we're gonna have to, you know, cite people because people learn a lesson when it costs them something. But we definitely don't jump right into that. We want to warn people and we want to be as nice about it as we can, but at some point, you know, we're gonna have
No,
to
it's
do
Are
something.
you done?
unfortunate but true.
Yes, I am. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I got something. So I've been watching this whole thing and I'm thinking, you know, the other side of this is you've done your part as an agency. You set up the cards, we've educated the people. But, you know, when I started doing it in my own household, I started asking my other friends, hey, how do you separate your trash in your house? And I get answers like, oh, we don't bother. We just throw it all in here. And I got a number of comments like that. And I just don't see that. There seems like in the past, there was more of a culture, some places where people got into recycling and they had systems in the house. You know, they put cans in one place or something. And like, I had to figure it out and I'm still confused. And, you know, I have cat food cans that have stuff in it and paper, icky stuff. And you get tired and lazy and you don't want to throw it in but we need some better guidance maybe, how to roll it out in our households. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense at all?
It does.
I mean, because how you do it in your house and give us suggestions on how to separate things and how to go about it might be helpful, other than people just going, oh, I don't care, I don't know how to do it, I don't want to bother.
Yeah, no, and there's things like, you know, if you get it 80% of the way there, the facility can handle the rest, like the cat food, you don't have to have it.
Yeah,
Spotless
but
can.
there's always mixed stuff that people don't want to bother with, and they don't know where to put it.
Well,
Yeah.
if they don't have room or they don't have a spot, you're right. It's.
But I mean, there should be like some kind of a guideline for in the house, like suggestions on how to recycle inside your house. Other than just saying, put them all in these 3 different cans and you figure it out, and here's the pictures. I don't know,
Rosemary?
just a thought.
Yeah.
Right now.
I apologize for being late. But one of the comments that I wanted to make today was my appreciation for what the district is doing and trying to get the word out on what goes where. I've been noticing your social media posts that are showing me what goes where. I'm almost wanting to send in like questions, like where does this bottle cap go, or the flimsy plastic, or the things that befuddle my family. So anyway, I really appreciate the social media posts. They look really good. I also, over the summer, have seen some of the information on like the booths and what goes where and which cans. And I've also seen, you know, over the last several months, advertisements and information from Cal Recycle. The hard thing, and I deal with this with my family all the time, like I'm into trash. I'm very interested in looking in cans and things like that, but not everybody is. And not everybody, I suspect, is getting the message. So I'm still noodling on like what will it take? But I'm also cognizant that even when in California, and I would imagine across the country, when we first introduced recycling, like get your bottles and cans in this cart, it took several years for people to kind of catch on, and for one neighbor to talk to the next neighbor, or for the kids to learn it in school and then talk to their parents. And then over the years, maybe the parents might try or start or do. And what I'm finding is that a lot of people still don't have a kitchen pail, which are readily available from the district, to be able to separate out their food waste and organic waste. So it's definitely a conversation to have, like how can we bring our community further along? But I did think about this all the way up here. Like, my big comment for the day is like just how well you're doing with your outreach. So I really appreciate the work you're doing.
Question to that point for the upcoming compost and shredding event. You'll have hundreds of people likely show up every year. It's always a really good turnout. Are there any opportunity areas you thought of or thinking of around education or distribution? That's part of the plan.
We always hand out kitchen pails, so those will
Okay.
be available, and then we'll have educational material, like the What Goes Where guide to hand out as well.
Proactively, or if.
We're
someone
handing,
wants
I
it
mean, we're offering the
as their-
kitchen pail. If they don't want it, they don't have
Got
to
it.
take it, but we'll be, yeah,
at the
going
time
to
as
each
they roll
window.
through, each one will be asked.
Exactly.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Anybody else? Questions, comments?
Just one, and it may not be for you, but I don't know how frequent diversion rate information comes to Clatsop Sanitation District. Right now, we're looking at compliance with the bins. Are we able to see an improvement in landfill diversion or diversion to recycling facilities? Have we been able to see an improvement in that as a result of the three bin system? And if not, when will we see that?
Well, I think what is happening all across the state is you're seeing a little bit of a dip in diversion because, like it or not, mixed waste processing dealt with non-participation. People didn't want to separate their recyclables. It didn't matter. They were going to be sorted out, even though some would be lost to contamination because they were mixed with trash. So now you're dealing with getting the participation rates up for putting things up. So I haven't seen any diversion rates for the district. I don't handle those reports or those calculations, but I can speak for, you know, the 15 jurisdictions that I work with are all seeing a dip in diversion if they had any type of trash that was processed. So it's a challenge. Long term, it's better to separate everything out, but again, you know, it takes time for people to really get that down.
Director Shaver, President Shaver.
Is red on and green off? Or
No, red's on.
red means you can hear.
Not on that one.
Oh. I wouldn't. Think on.
It's not odd, it's special.
Yeah, special. There we go. So thank you for what you said, Rosemary, about that, the social media presence. I had mentioned to Gina when I got here this evening, you can't look at the platforms without seeing some Costa Mesa Sanitary. We're getting a lot of coverage. And again, like Mike said, it's going to be a process and it'll take some time. You know, one of the things that bugs me the most, and we've all seen this, you get something in the mail from that big shipping company, or you get something, you buy something, and it says on the package, this is recyclable, when it's not. You're naturally going to put it in the wrong bin because, oh, it says recyclable. At the town hall meetings, when we introduced the blue card, we had someone who said she had brought a whole bunch of examples. She kept holding these things up. And there was one of the shipping bags. It's a blue and white bag that you get stuff from that company, right? I'm not supposed to say Amazon, that's fine. And it says on there, it's got the arrows, completely recyclable or recyclable. It's kind of like flushable wipes.
A lie.
There's no such thing as a flushable wipe, right? So people are going to naturally, it must be right, it's printed on the bag. So there's some education that reaches out far more than our jurisdiction is going to allow. And I think we're getting that message across to people. I think even old goats like me look at Facebook, so it must be true, right?
Yeah. No, it's again, I err towards the if it's dry, give recycling a try thing. Don't worry about is this recyclable plastic or
That's something
not.
we ought to post on a flyer.
They
Yeah,
can
no
figure it
kidding.
out at the MRF.
It's that on this letter, right?
All right, give it a try. Any other questions, comments? Anybody? Nope, looks like we're good. Thank you so much for the information. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike.
What came to?
Okay, as you make your way up there, we're going to go over item 3, which is the 24-25 alkaline battery recycling program.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'm going to turn this over to Angela Patino. She's going to give this report.
Good evening, committee members. I'm here to provide the final report on this year's alkaline battery recycling program, which ran from September 2024 through April 2025. This year, 21 schools participated, collecting a total of 12,759 pounds of used alkaline batteries. On May 7th, I presented the first place award to Sonora Elementary, who led the program with an impressive 2,966 pounds collected, earning a $1,500 prize. In total, we distributed $10,150 in rewards based on the volume of batteries collected. And our top 5 schools, as you'll see in the report, were Sonora Elementary, Davis Magnet, Estancia High School, Paularino Elementary, and Kaiser. The program process included outreach to 33 schools in August. 12 schools chose not to participate. I do want to say thank you to the CAC because participating schools received program signage. And I brought an example sign that we handed out to our schools. And then our contractor, Mercury Disposal Systems, delivered recycling boxes and handled the monthly collection and reporting of battery weights. I also want to add that throughout the school year, I personally participated in a lot of science nights at various schools. And at every school I went to, I saw our sign out front. So I think it really helped with participation, being that we had 21 schools participate. That's the highest we've ever had. And we also had a record-breaking amount of batteries. In terms of finances, the program was well within budget. This year's total cost was just under $26,000. Looking ahead, the program will continue to operate efficiently while maximizing outreach and environmental impact. This is for receive and file, and I'm happy to take your questions.
I just have a comment. I think it's a great program. I think your sign is awesome. I think more people will continue to get on board. I know it's been kind of a slow increase all along, except for maybe COVID kind of messed
Right.
everything up and knocked you back a little bit. And I think it's great. I think we should continue to ask the schools that say no, and hopefully one day they'll change their mind.
Oh, yeah.
But I think it's a great program, and the staff does a really great job with it. So hats off to all of you, because we couldn't do it without you. I think it's great. Anybody, questions, comments? No?
Only question I had was why some opt out.
We don't know. They just don't write me back. I usually send about 3 emails to nudge people. And even throughout the school year, I nudge them like, any collections, let me know. And some just don't express any interest. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Item number 4, the proposed fiscal year 2025 to 2030 strategic plan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I believe one of the most important responsibility a governing body has is adopting a budget, right? The budget gives the staff the tools and the resources to do our job. I think the second most important responsibility the governing board has is adopting a strategic plan, right? Because that plan is really the blueprint for the future of our organization, for the future of the community. And it sets goals for us to achieve. It keeps us on a course on where to go and how to achieve those. So the 2020-2025 strategic plan is coming to an end on June 30th of this year. In your staff report is attached basically a final report of all the accomplishments we achieved in the last 5 years, and I hope you would agree it was quite significant, and I want to commend staff for the hard work and dedication that they put into making sure that the board's goals were being achieved. So kudos to my staff on that. So as we come to the end of the current strategic plan, we have to develop a new plan for the next 5 years, from 2025 to 2030. And that kicked off on January 8th, I'm sorry, January 13th. We had a special meeting with the board of directors, and we shared with the board where are we now, where we are 5 years ago, where are we now, share some accomplishments, and then we went over we started what's called a SWOT analysis. We had the board discuss, share with us what they believe is our strengths, our weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Later, staff did the same study on our own, and so we added on to that SWOT analysis and attached it into your staff report. You can see on the screen the full list of what we identified were our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And we use this information to help us build what our future goals would be, the goals that we should focus on for the next 5 years. After the SWOT analysis, we did discuss with the board, the vision statement. Where do you want to be in 5 years? Are you comfortable with our current vision, or do you want to change the vision? Do you want to go in a different direction? And it turned out that the board and staff both agree that we should keep our vision statement the same, which is leading a community that is free from solid waste and wastewater pollution, right? So that's our vision one day, that we will have a community with no more solid waste and wastewater pollution, right? So that's our vision. And then the next question we came up with, what about our mission? Why do we exist? Is our mission still what we're striving for, or should we change our mission? Should we go in different directions? And again, the board and staff believe that our mission statement should remain the same. And so our mission statement for the next 5 years will be to protect public health and the environment for current and future generations. And then we started talking about our core values. So, what do we believe in? What are our belief system that helps us makes our decisions, helps to what we believe in strongly. And if you can pull that up, thank you. And so there was a little bit of some minor changes to our core values. As you can see, we quickly renamed professional development. We're calling it innovation now. And then we did add one new core value, which is efficiencies. And we are striving to work in a timely manner using optimal resources. So that was added to core values. And then we also talked about our strategic elements, which is basically our priorities. And if you can pull those up, thank you. So we did have some minor changes in our priorities. The leadership used to be administrative management, so we took that out completely and changed it to leadership. And as you see, some of the changes we've had in our elements were really condensed down to a simplified definition of what those elements are. So we just want to keep it really simple, so you can see those changes. Go to the next slide too. There you go. So as you see, a community outreach and communication, we're just going to call it communications, right? We took out administrative management and call it leadership. And if you go down two more, please. And then human resources management, we're just going to call it human resources. And under finance, we're going to keep that as the same. So once the board finished that process, they directed staff to really go back and start working on what's really called the meat and potatoes of the strategic plan, right? What is our objectives? What are the tasks or the goals we want to achieve? And what's the timeline? Who's going to complete those? And so for the next couple of months, I say from April through March, I met with staff, I met with all the departments, and we went through this exercise. And we said, okay, so here's our element. So our strategic element for leadership: to ensure ethical, legal, and transparent management of the district. What are the objectives we want to achieve, and what are the tasks we want to achieve in those next 5 years? And you can see on the screen, these are what we came up with. And so we did that with all our elements. And so for today, or for tonight, what we're seeking from the Citizen Advisory Committee is do you have any comments or suggestions on the objectives and tasks? Is there something you think we're missing that we need to add into our tasks that we need to focus on in the next 5 years? We're asking for this tonight because we plan on sharing the plan again with the board on Monday, and we would like to share your comments and suggestions with the board on Monday. And then with the intent is hopefully the board will adopt the plan at their June meeting, and then we will implement it on July 1. So with that, I'm hoping if you have any questions or comments, I would like to hear them. So.
I have a question.
Yes.
What are the 3 items that you're most proud of the strategic plan that is about to end?
Yeah. Well, you know what? I mean, you know what? If you can pull up, if you do me a favor, pull up the final report, which is, it's called the strategic plan quarterly plan report, is the last attachment. Yes, yes, if you can try to. So without knowing on top of my head,
Great question.
yeah, you know, I think cleaning our sewer, focusing on cleaning our sewer system in the 18-month, 12-month time period is a lofty goal. And though we were hitting that goal on when we're cleaning for 18 months and we changed it to cleaning every 12 months, we're not quite there, but we're close, which is good. So I know we're going the right direction as far as cleaning our sewer system. I'm really proud of all the outreach efforts that staff has done. If there's anything specifically, I can't think of anything on top of my head. But I know that just the amount of engagement that we have done in the last 5 years, it's like night and day, especially if you look at our social media activity. It's phenomenal what we've been able to do with this kind of resources. I mean, again, you're talking 3 people doing this, right? And some organizations have huge teams. I mean, you look at the water districts, they have dozens of team members working on outreach, and I have 3, and they're doing phenomenal work. The solid waste side, I think, going to the 3-cart system. I mean, that was a huge endeavor on doing that, you know, and the goal was to achieve 1% complaints, and we got less than 1% complaints of all 23,000 customers. So that was huge. Yeah, I think just looking at, if you had a chance to go through this final report and look at everything that we achieved, I think it's just phenomenal. What we were able to do.
You said you're close to being able to clean all sewers within 12 months?
Yes, yes, with three cleaning units, yes.
Have you noticed a decrease in spill or decrease in the volume?
Yes, the goal is always to have zero spills a year, but we're averaging about 1 or 2 a year. Prior to that, we're doing about 4 or 5 a year. So we are seeing improvements. Yeah, definitely. So, but we're still, the goal is still to have 0. That's what we're trying to achieve.
That's always.
Yes, yes. Thank you.
I have some comments and some questions. So I looked through all of the district strengths, which you guys have a lot to be proud of with your staff here for sure. And in the areas where improvement is available, the opportunity to improve. I'm an HR person, so forgive me for the things I key on, but clear roles and responsibilities. It says on number 10 under weaknesses, it says clear roles and responsibilities a month, departments and positions. Is it supposed to be like each month, or is that a typo and is it supposed to be among? I'm trying to understand what that says. And I guess my question is, does every position that works at the district, do they have a clear job description?
What number was that?
Under weaknesses, it's number 10.
Okay, clear roles and responsibilities.
And there's kind of a gap
Yeah,
there.
that's so I don't, the amount, I say clear roles and responsibilities, departments, and positions, yeah. I think what we're saying here is that each position should understand what their roles are and what their responsibilities are. So I think sometimes the staff is unclear on what they should be doing. So we want to make it very clear, okay, this is what you're hired to do, this is your roles, and this is your responsibilities.
Does everyone have like a formal job description?
Yes, yes,
Okay,
and we review those every 5 years, and we update them and we
And
take them to
some
the board.
things overlap, obviously, but, okay. Because that's gonna kind of tie into down the road on your budget where it talks about employee increases.
Yes,
Just my comment is I am hopeful that all the job descriptions they're things that are measurable and not subjective. So, cut the budget for finance, cut the budget X% and you get, value added bonus based on this. And it's not based on somebody's opinion if somebody's sweet or not.
right.
And I know that that's always a huge pitfall for a lot of agencies' employment where they get a little bit of gray there. The other thing is I hope that you will make emergency preparedness and a clear responsibility of the roles and trainings a priority, especially because of the world we live in and how things are going. I think it's, we do people an incredible disservice to put them in a situation that could be hurtful, harmful, or end their life and not arm them with a path to surviving that or, you know, being okay because we just didn't tell them what to do and they didn't know. Because people do panic. It looks like the majority of the things that you have on the weakness side or where there's opportunities for improvement, it kind of folds into some things that you already do really well. So hopefully that'll be a good transition. I did notice there were a lot of comments from ratepayers about not having a dedicated customer service representative, or that came up a lot. Do you think there's a need to have a dedicated customer service representative?
Well, technically, all employees are customer service reps,
Right,
you know,
but-
so,
It does it,
yeah.
but it depends on who answers the phone. And I'm not trying to bait you because I'm not saying that there does or there doesn't, but that seemed to come up a lot.
We,
in the
we,
comments
I
from-
think most of the calls are
Great
coming in are
customers.
trash related, you know, related to customer service. And we did recommend in the budget that hopefully the board will approve is a new staffer for the solid waste department, is the full-time administrative assistant that will help answering those phone calls. Now, we do send those calls out to CRNR. They have a huge call center. They have 60 employees. Just that's all they do is answer phones at CRNR. But sometimes they get upset with CRNR, and so they want to come to us, and so they'll call us. And so we do Marissa right now is taking that, but now we're going to get some relief for her and hopefully hire someone that will be responsible for taking those calls. So that would be the closest dedicated person to customer service we would have.
Okay, perfect. And then under core values, I think what you have is great. I would just suggest or would actually like you to see like, and I don't know if it would go under dedication but I'd like to see you put somewhere in the core values, like it could go under dedication where it says we provide services, maybe add the word consistent, because it doesn't matter what happens, you guys are responsible for wastewater and trash hauling and all that kind of stuff. And your support and management of what you handle is consistent, and we try to make it consistent. So I think that might be a good word to add.
Awesome.
And then under your HR section,
Huh?
if you could put like support, create a culture that is based on safety, trust, cooperation, and accountability. Or accountability in there somewhere, I think might be helpful.
Great. Awesome. Thank you.
Those are my suggestions. Anybody questions, comments, suggestions?
Just a comment, when I've written many of those core values before as well, private sector. And just the two words that struck out to me, just thinking about the work that you do that kind of goes both internally and externally, environmental, non-environmental, financial, is stewardship and sustainability. Just curious about any discernment in developing that, where maybe that could fold into, not necessarily as a category or perhaps, but some of that folds into probably what you're describing there. Fiduciary responsibility, maybe there's another term for that.
So, fiduciary, so you're saying you look at changing that word, you don't like that, the way that's read?
It's I mean, it's straightforward, you know, but I'm just wondering if there was perhaps another way of describing that, or aside from that, if stewardship and or sustainability fits in any way as a core value or description of a core value.
Sustainability, and what else was it?
Stewardship.
I could definitely discuss that with staff.
And just to the point you're mentioning of the new FTE, the administrative assistant to support that work. For me, it's also another level of accountability for CRNR of, what is coming in from your customers, from us, from our customers on what's working, what's not working, what can work better. So it's that direct line.
Yes, yes, definitely.
Yeah, I noticed the customer support comments too, and kind of feel like if we already have a solution in mind, putting it under the communications section in the strategic objectives and tasks would be fitting.
Okay.
I know it's a lot about our outreach, but having maybe a column like 6.5 about how we're handling inbound and prioritizing that with this hire. And then even applying like some type of tracking or analytics to make sure that we are getting the same information about that what CRNR is delivering to us. I also feel like a valid point is that a lot of customers don't really know the difference anyways. They just know it's Postmates Sam that's
True.
really the person to call, and then, they discover it's another party. So yeah, I think that might be fitting there. And then under solid waste, could you explain why deterring scavenging is a priority?
Sure. So the recyclables are a commodity. They're a valuable commodity. So there's value in recyclables. So when CRNR collects those recyclables, they ship them out to the various markets and they receive revenues from those commodities. Those revenues help offset the cost to provide the program. So if they have less recyclables taken because they're being stolen by people out of the carts, that's less revenue. That means less revenue. That means your rates could, in theory, go up. I think we want to discourage people from doing that. And so right now, our policy is we have a full-time code enforcement officer. That's what he does. He goes around, he drives around, and if he sees someone going through the trash cart, he gives them a verbal warning. And then if he sees them a second time, he will write them an administrative citation, which is $75 for the first offense. And it could be go up to $300 on the third offense. So we are taking a more aggressive approach to scavenging. In the past, we would just give them warnings. But we said enough's enough. We're gonna give them one warning and that's it. Then we're gonna write them a citation.
That apply to, how does the city handle it for businesses? That get
That's a little,
scavenged?
that's different. I know the city has a code against scavenging, so their code enforcement officer would go out and address that as well. So if they see someone taking out a recycling bin at a commercial business, the city's code enforcement officer would address that.
The police sometimes end up addressing it as a health and safety and a quality of life issue also. Because I know, and it's when they're called, it's not, they don't go around looking for it, of course, but if somebody calls them and has a problem with somebody going through the trash and they leave it everywhere and they make a mess, or they go on the side of somebody's house where there's a trash can, or any number of things like that, it in the past has been an issue where, and I think it's been many years ago, that's how they ended up with the actual, not the code, but they have a.
Code enforcement officers?
Yeah, but they have, I'm trying to think, they did a resolution and a whole thing about that with a number of reasons why, but usually, the police aren't gonna say anything to some guy digging through the trash unless somebody calls them.
Right.
And they're on their property,
Right.
kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
But
right.
code enforcement will.
Yeah, and I would believe that the relationship between a hauler and a district is based on what the expected revenue will be from the materials that will go to market and sold. So most people don't really think about it, but it's kind of stealing strategy.
Okay, it's stealing revenues, you're right.
I guess I'm surprised because I always viewed those people as like they were doing a service
Yeah.
by ensuring things were ending up getting recycled. And if they make a little bit of money, that's their living, especially since we're still seeing culturally people are terrible about recycling and right, literally that's what the study showed us. So I do understand how literally it is stealing. And what is it, like one person's trash is another person's treasure,
Right,
but
right.
so basically, as soon as we put our trash into the bins, it then becomes property of CR and Rs.
Once it goes out in the curb, it's no longer, it now belongs to CRNR. If it's
Okay.
in the curb, if it's in your cart, it's on the private property, it still belongs to you. But once it goes on the curb, it's now belongs to CRNR. Yes.
We allow scavenging in the black carts only.
Right? And then what percentages will go down, right? No, we can't advertise that, but yeah, super cool. Thank you.
Anybody else? Questions, comments? No, I guess we're
Great.
good
Thank
with
you.
that.
Yes, thank you.
Moving on to the next item, number 5, proposed preliminary biennial budget review for fiscal years 2025 and 26 and 26 and 27.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to turn this over to Caitlin Tran, our finance manager.
Thank you, Scott. Good evening, Citizen Advisory Committee members. Before you today are the proposed preliminary budgets for fiscal year 2025-26 and 2026-27. Staff have been working on these budgets since January. Throughout this process, departments held multiple meetings to ensure that the proposed budget are balanced. So what is a balanced budget? A balanced budget simply means that our projected revenues match or exceed our projected expenses. In another word, we're not spending more than what we're bringing in. The proposed budget outlined in Attachment A for fiscal year 2025-26 and Attachment B for fiscal year 2026-27. For fiscal year 2025-26, the total proposed budget is $17,446,300. And for fiscal year 2026-27, it is $17,826,800. Today, I will focus on the revenue and expense section of the budget. In the written staff report, you'll find detailed information on programs, capital improvement projects, and transfers. We will begin with an overview of the revenue projection for both fiscal year. These projections set the foundation for how we will fund for operations, programs, and capital improvement projects. Then we'll look at expenses. We'll look at these year by year. There are 9 revenue accounts listed here today. I will focus on 2. First is the annual charge. We record the annual charge, solid waste fund and wastewater fund separately, as you can see there. The district collects solid waste and wastewater fees through the annual property tax assessments and records these revenue under an account called annual charge. We record them separately, as I mentioned there. For solid waste annual charge revenue, the way we calculate it is by multiplying the number of active accounts by the approved rate. For fiscal year 2025-26, revenues are projected to be $8,050,000. For fiscal year 2026-27, the projection increases to $8,620,000. Okay, next slide, please. Wastewater annual charge revenues are projected to be $7,696,000 for fiscal year 2025-26, and for fiscal year 2026-27, $7,702,000. These total are calculated by multiplying the number of active accounts plus a projected 0.08% growth by the approved rate. Next, we'll look at other non-operating revenue. This includes the district's share of the Orange County Waste and Recycling Import Revenue, cybersecurity grant, reimbursement from CNR for the Christmas tree collection and the community survey, as well as liquidated damages and the district 5% share of the Orange County Sanitation District fee collection. For fiscal year 2025-26, other non-operating revenue total $387,200. For fiscal year 2026-27, the projected revenue is $169,500. This decrease from fiscal year 2025-26 is due to the district not receiving grant or survey reimbursement from CRNR in the second year. Any questions on revenue before I move on to expenses?
Just, why didn't we receive revenue from CRNR? Or whatever you just said, like it dropped because we didn't get anything back from CRNR.
The survey is only done every 2 years, so it's only going to be the income from CRNR
Oh,
to
okay.
cover the survey. It's only in the budget.
Oh,
every two-
okay.
And then the rest, I think, was from the cybersecurity grant.
Oh, okay, perfect. Thank you.
I have a question. Can you talk a little bit about how you project increase in housing being built in the next few years with projections and increase in revenue? Or do you have do you just use more of a historical?
A little bit of both. So for fiscal year 25-26, we looked at right now the data from the county as of February, what we have. And it doesn't look like there's any increases compared to the last year or this current year assessment. So based on those information, we kind of project the annual charge revenue for solid waste and wastewater. But the wastewater side, we saw there's a little 0.08% increase. So that's why we add that projection in there.
With like a large development, like a Measure K development, would we see a large increase, or in the grand scheme of things, not really?
Usually we don't project, let's say if not, there's a few hundred new development out there for resident or commercial, we don't want, or let's just say, commercial or resident, we don't know when the timeline that it will be done. Like they can submit plans right now, but it can take 2 years, 5 years to complete. For residents, sometimes, it's completed, but when will they sell that house? When will they have people living there and people call in to start service? So usually, that's why where you see, and it's also explained in the written staff report, kind of in the middle there, charges for services. So let's say if you purchase a brand new home and you need to start trash or sewer services, you would call us, CMSD, and then we'll set that up, the initial prorated amount. Fiscal year start July. If you move in October, then we start charging you October. And then, so you pay for the amount from October to June 30th of next year. And then after that, we now have your APN number, we have your information, so now we'll place you on assessment for the next fiscal year. And then now the revenue is being recorded under annual charge revenue line there instead of the charges for services, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Thank you.
So the services get paid for even if they're not projected once they start.
Just to be on the safe side, because we don't want to project, all these revenue coming in when we're not sure.
That makes sense.
Sorry, can I just ask a follow-up to that? Historically, is there a percentage of what you're not projecting that actually comes in as revenue?
Usually because we place these fees on assessment, so the county collects for us and then they transfer to our bank. So majority of the time, we receive 98% of the projection there. I think this year, maybe a few $1,000s off between the projected current fiscal year revenue versus what the actual assessment coming in. So usually for revenue, I must say, we do a pretty good job at projecting. Okay.
Can I ask another question? So annual charge, can you break that down? Is that from property taxes from the county?
That's where annual charge is a revenue account that we label as that, label that name, and that's where we record the assessment, the revenue from the county.
That's both solid and wastewater?
Yes, if you want to back up one line. Yeah, so you see general fund, that's property tax, and that's non-restricted fund. So if you read the report, the board can say, let's use that money to support solid waste or wastewater or both. But for annual charge, you see that's solid waste column. That's only trash. And the annual charge line, that's the money that we're projecting to receive from assessment from the county. And the additional container charge there, that's the extra $9, which July will be $10 per can.
We had, there was a discussion about the increase in the fixture fees, right? Where would that fall on the revenue line? Where would we see future increases there potentially?
So for fixture fees, you'll look at the wastewater column because it's mainly wastewater. Sewer permit, because permit fees are going up in that study, and also inspection fee. For the fixture fees, it is capacity fund. We don't have that projection in this budget. Normally, we don't.
We cannot just spend those like we can on our wastewater funds. It has to be a project that benefits the entire district. A classic example is this building, right? It's used by the entire district, not one particular neighborhood. It's the entire district. And so before we can use fixture fee for expenses, we have to get approved by our attorney to make sure, hey, is this compliable or not? And so we list, here's a project we want to submit. We believe it's going to benefit the entire district, not one certain neighborhood. And he gives us the green light, and then we can budget that as on capacity charges, capacity fees. That's a different, like Caitlin says, a different budget than what you're seeing here.
Okay, thanks.
To expenses for salaries and benefits. For first, we'll look at fiscal year 2025-26. When reviewing expenses for salaries and benefits or operations and maintenance section, you'll see there are two parts to it. The first top part is the administrative, and the second part is the wastewater maintenance. So the salaries and benefits for administrative staff cover the costs for HQ personnel. So these costs are split between solid waste and wastewater funds because HQ staff works for both funds. So for example, some salaries like for Marissa's, the solid waste department, it's we charge her and her department, solid waste department salaries and benefits under solid waste column there. And for finance, like myself, my salaries and benefits in my department, we split between solid waste and wastewater for our salaries and benefits. So that's why you see there's, under administrative, there's a solid waste and there's a wastewater fund section. And now the second part is the wastewater maintenance salaries and benefits. And if you move to the solid waste column, that's only for staff at District Yard, the guys in the field who work mainly on sewer. Okay, the proposed personnel budget for fiscal year 2025-26 is approximately 4.6 million, which includes 1.2 million for the solid waste fund and 3.4 million for the wastewater fund, representing an 11% increase over the current fiscal year 2024-25 approved budget. This increase consists of several key factors, such as a 3.1% cost of living, certificate pay, annual merit increase, a new position and a promotion in the solid waste department, a new position in the wastewater department, an adjustment to the cafeteria plan, and workers' compensation insurance. Now we're moving on to operations and maintenance. The administrative section includes expenses at HQ, and the O&M wastewater maintenance section includes expenses related to the district yard, pump station, and sewer lines. The proposed O&M budget for fiscal year 2025-26 is approximately 11.3 million, excluding transfer out, programs, and capital improvement projects. Of this amount, 7.8 million is for the solid waste fund, and 3.5 million is the wastewater fund, representing an 8% increase over the current fiscal year 2024-25 approved budget. This increase mainly due to inflation, higher living costs, and a few new projects. For detail of the budget line item, you can look at attachment A for fiscal year 2025-26. Any questions on expenses for fiscal year 2025-26 before moving on to fiscal year 26-27? The proposed personnel budget for fiscal year 2026-27 is approximately 5 million, which includes 1.3 million for the solid waste fund and 3.1 million for the wastewater fund, representing a 9% increase over the fiscal year 2025-26 proposed budget. This increase mainly driven by the assumption of a 5% cost of living, annual merit increase, certificate pay, and as I mentioned earlier, the 2 new positions and a promotion in the solid waste and wastewater fund, an adjustment to the cafeteria plan, workers' compensation insurance, and longevity pay.
How's your longevity pay structured?
Actually, that's a new benefits that we're proposing to the board through this budget. So right now, we don't have that benefits. We are planning, can you?
I have it open. It's on page, well, there's no page number. It's
Yeah,
in attach, it's in attachment
yeah.
B. It basically
No.
has like,
Go down.
it's based on they have to qualify for 4 things.
So you have to be an employee with the district for 5 years, and you have to be maxed out at your salary range. And you have to complete 3 goals, your annual evaluation, you have to complete 3 goals. You have to be score exceptional on your performance evaluation for that year to get the 3%. So it's not your hourly rate that get increased. It's just a 3% of your annual salary. So let's say if you make $50,000 a year and you perform exceptional, above average, you completed 3 of your goals, then you'll get 3% of that $50,000. So it's not, first of all, it's not pension. Yeah. And based on the calculation, I have it in there, the second year of the budget, fiscal year 26, 27, there's 1 employee that will be receiving this benefit. If they do exceptional and get the max salary range in the second year and met all the requirements. Okay. The proposed preliminary O&M budget for fiscal year 2026-27, total 11.5 million, excluding transfer out program and capital improvement projects. This includes approximately 8.1 million for the solid waste fund and 3.4 million for the wastewater fund. For detail of the fiscal year 2026-27 line item budget, it's in attachment B. Okay. And this is the calendar for this proposed budget. Staff is requesting that the CAC members review and discuss the proposed preliminary biannual budget as presented and provide comments, feedback. Staff presented this budget to the board on April 15 and May 13. The 2-year budget is scheduled for to be adopted on June 23rd, 2025. Any questions?
I have a question. The costs were distinctly different between wastewater and solid waste. How were the expenses divided between, you referred to it as headquarters personnel? Because the split doesn't seem to be 50-50.
It is not.
Imagine that a significant part of the solid waste costs are associated with the hauler contract. So how did you determine what costs were associated or how that split was between solid waste and wastewater?
That's a great question. So you're right, it is not 50-50. Some expenses are 50-50, but not all. For salaries and benefits, for example, my salary is split 20-80, so 20% solid waste, 80% wastewater, because like you said, solid waste we contract out. So majority of the work, all finance do is pay the invoice. Versus for wastewater, there's a lot more invoices that we have to process, we have to pay. PO when the engineer requests a PO or to send out invoices for sewer spill, for back charges. So there's a lot of more sewer for wastewater work for us than the solid waste fund. Does that help? And then for O&M expenses, majority of the invoices are split 10%, charged 10% to solid waste and 90% to the wastewater. Because again, staff, everything we do here, mainly for wastewater, and we contract out to CR&R.
So am I correct to say that you looked at each item and looked at the expenses associated with each activity within the HQ budget? Okay, thank you so much. That was helpful.
Is that 5% cost of living adjustment, is that something that's been contracted and agreed on by the?
For the first fiscal year, 25, 26, it's 3.1%. That is, we have it in our employee handbook that approved by the board, that staff will get COLA February to February. And whatever that is, we use that. So for February, the past February 2025, cost of living came in at 3.1. So we're using that actual percentage to apply here. But for the second year, we don't know yet. And so normally it's 3 to, well, you know, the past couple of years been very high, but we just cap at 5%. And when the time comes next year, we have to present that, whatever the actual number, the percentage to the board, and the board will approve that. It's just a placement right now, 5%, just for budgeting purposes. No. 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 The board will approve the actual percentage when it comes in.
So I think I know the answer to this, but so for the solid waste rates, if the district ends up going to a tiered system, it's not going to change the amount of rates you collect. It would just change the amount of rate, the way you collected it. So you'd still, you know, you'd still be projecting roughly the same, but it might change the disbursement of who paid it based on who has giant cans and who has small ones, right? And is that still something that the board or the district is talking about pursuing as a tiered system at some point, or is that just not even part of the conversation? I was just curious if, like, at what year we're thinking if the district decided to go that way, like how many years out are we looking at for that?
I think we're probably looking at in 2026, looking at tier rates, at least presenting it to the CAC and to the board for consideration. There's a couple of scenarios we have to take into consideration, and if you're not aware, right now all the cities and special districts are in negotiations with the county, Orange County Waste and Recycling on a tipping fee on the trash that we drop off at the landfill. The Orange County Waste and Recycling is saying that they need to increase the rates because of they need to increase it for their increased expenditures, but we're at odds of what that amount should be. So hopefully we can come to an agreement that the goal is to come to an agreement in October. That way it'll give us and the cities time to notify the public and do our Prop 218 hearings. And then once I know what that rate is, then we can talk to my staff and say, okay, can we do a tier rate system? We'd have to do another study. We'd have to hire a consultant to do that kind of study for us, to determine what would be the appropriate cost for a 90-gallon, 65-gallon, and 30-gallon. So hopefully, maybe 2026, I'm optimistic we can bring something early next year.
Okay. And then I know for our trash hauler, they have a clause in their contract that at the end of the fiscal year, which would be the end of this month, basically, they can request an additional amount of money outside of their contracted amount. I know I bring this up every year and people get sick of it, but some of you guys might not know this. So that is never included in the budget because you can't budget for something that you don't know if it's going to be voted on and approved, correct?
The max they can request is 5%, and so we budget the max 5%. But knowingly that if it comes down at 3%, then we make a budget adjustment.
Okay.
And we
And
did
that
know,
usu-
we did know for this coming year that it's the 3.1%. That is the CPI request of CR&R, so that is in the projected 25-26 budget. And then
Okay,
the max
so-
5% is in the next
Under the
year.
contract, the max they can request is 5%.
Okay, and that usually translates to like, it's like $600,000 or it's
I don't know what
something
it
like,
is.
something like that. Okay. Okay, but it's budgeted for, so that's
Yes.
what I wanted to know, if it was in there. And then, I have kind of a random question. Underneath operations and maintenance, there's a line item that says election cost $86,000, and that's never been in there before. Like what?
It's been there before, yes.
It's every other
Yeah,
year.
every other year we budget it. Yes, we do. And it seems to be going up every year too.
Oh, okay, I didn't see it
No,
in
so,
this
so
other column.
we don't
that's-
do our elections. The county does it for us. So all the ballots and the votings and tallying, it's all by, the county does it. I think the city, yeah, we pay for them to do that.
Okay, I read this wrong. I thought it was, I thought this column was something else and it was blank, so okay. And then the only other question I had was on benefits. The ways that you guys do it, it looks like, for a single, just the employee alone, you pay 1,200 of $1,300 premium, is what it looks like, or at least that's what you're projecting. And then if somebody has a dependent or a family, it's a different rate. Is it the original 12, is it calculated as the original 1,200 for the employee and the difference is for the dependents as a flat rate, or is it the actual cost of what, because it says 80%? So
It's-
it was kind of confusing the way it was written. I wasn't sure how you did that.
I'll,
I'll try it and you can, so basically,
I have the
the,
attachment
the,
here,
the
but-
board approves an allotment of what that health benefit will be. So they'll approve an allotment of what they think is fair for employees, for just an employee that by themselves, employee plus one, employees by family. Now, healthcare costs are usually more than what the board approves for allotment, and that difference, the staff pays for that out of their pocket, that difference.
Okay.
So it's just whatever the comfort level is for the board. What do you think is a comfort level for a good benefit program that will attract employees, so will keep retention? You know, we want retention, we want to attract new employees. What is a good amount? And so we'll do a comparison with other organizations, and we want to be competitive with everyone else. And so we'll do a survey. Here's what other jurisdictions are paying for their employees. We don't want to be up the high end, we don't want to be in the low end, kind of like to be somewhere in the middle. And so
Right.
if we're not in the middle, then we'll ask the board to do some adjustments. And, you know, I don't know what that dollar amount is, but that's basically how that works for the health plan.
Okay, because I was reading the attachment, and the only reason I'm bringing it up is a lot of the time, your single employees get hosed in terms of financial investment. And as an HR person, I would never say pay 100% of any employee's premium, because then everybody will just take it whether they need it or not, and that's not a sound investment. But what you might want to consider is just increase the percentage of the premium for the single person, so you're making more of a comparable investment in their healthcare as you are in somebody that is married and has 5 kids. Like we all make choices. So financially, it just kind of spreads out the benefit a little bit. Doesn't take anything away from people who are insuring their families.
Sure.
But you're kind of giving the person that's spending less a little bit more, because you're still saving money on it. So it's just a suggestion for the way the percentages are broken out here. And then I see that for your workers' comp, you're basing your budgeted numbers on an experience mod of 96%. Is that what you guys currently have?
So that the EMOD is if you know what experience modification is, how insurance company demonstrates what your rates are. It's based
Right.
on how many injuries occurs, work-related injuries. And the goal is to be less than 100%. If you have a less than 100%, that's telling you have less than average of work-related injuries. If above 100%, you have more than average, right? So the less than 100% is better. So it adjusts every year. It's adjusted. So it was last year, I think it was at 100%. This year is 96%. Years past, it was above 100%. So we're seeing it going in the right direction. It's going down, and that's a good thing.
Okay, but you're just basing it on the number that you have now that you know you can achieve. Okay, perfect. That's all I wanted to know. Anybody else?
Yeah, I just a follow-up on the longevity pay, which I'm super excited that that's part of the proposal. But it does say that it's available funding as determined by the district's annual budget process, and I'm just not familiar with the process. But I do know the priority of having a balanced budget. So if at some point these projected, the projected numbers aren't a part of the budget, what's the process? What are you prioritizing in your budget process as far as benefits for employees? Does that make sense?
I'll take that. So usually, as you can see here, we look at 5 years out. So we assume that all staff right now will get 5% increase, the maximum annual percent increase each year. So then by X year, this employee will get max salary range. So we usually include everyone in there. So it's already, we do this budget process every 2 years. So we do project that. So most likely it's in there for everyone.
I think my question really centers on in the event that it doesn't fit in the budget and those impacted employees, is there a contingency? Like, does it get deferred to the next year? Is it, I'm just imagining being that, and this is like a worst case scenario, being that employee who doesn't fit in the budget that year and you don't have access. And maybe this is a completely out of the ballpark question because it just is unrealistic based on your budget process.
I don't project that we will ever get to that point because as if you look at our previous years, the quarterly budget report and the end of the year, there's always excess money in the personnel because we project a large amount for, if you look at the line by line item, there's an overtime projection, and overtime projections are, usually for emergency, for employees to respond to SSO or work an event. But and most of the time, if you look back, previous historical numbers, we always have excess money in overtime and other areas as well. Like the incentive pay, there's usually some available amount there. So I don't expect that we can't cover for someone 3% annual
Yeah,
salary.
I guess to answer your question, we never go over budget on our personnel side. And another example, like Caitlin says, on the salary side, we always budget employees getting a 5% merit, but not everyone gets one. So there's savings right there.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're going to have that problem. So, but thank you for the concern. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Well, and with your longevity pay, like, I agree. I think it's a good idea. And if you look at it from like a human resource perspective, that money that you're investing to keep your employees so they don't go find another job saves you more money than if they leave and you have to go through the process of posting for the job and interviewing and getting that person up and running. You spend way more money than you would ever spend on the longevity pay keeping them.
Agreed.
So I would hope, that you guys will go forward with that and not lose it for that reason. So.
City of Oceanside did a study on the costs associated with like losing staff and having to go through the recruitment process and training that staff.
Astronomical.
And then in that staff, it was a lot of money to the point where their city council took an action to significantly increase the staff benefits and salary because it was just too expensive to lose good employees. So
Yeah.
it is very.
It is. Does anybody else have any other questions or comments?
Thank you. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, on the agenda under all my piles here. Closing items. Committee member comments. Anybody want to start? I can start. Shocker. The compost and shredding event is coming up on the 31st, which is a week from Saturday, I believe. And it's going to be at OCC College from 8 a.m. to noon. And I know that some people here are volunteering. And if anybody from the CAC, I think if you had extra volunteers, it wouldn't break anybody's heart. So if anybody decides they wants to volunteer, it's great. It's usually the entrance off of Fairview, and the signage is excellent. The turnout is great. So I would encourage everybody to take part in that one way or another. Again, I want to thank the people who reapplied and got appointed. Happy to have you. And also, again, welcome both of our newest members. And should you feel comfortable or interested in telling us a little bit about yourselves or anything like that, that would be fantastic. No pressure. We're happy to have you either way, and we'll get to know you. And I just want to say thank you to staff for everything that you do. We have 2 board members here today. So that's it. What?
I have one thing to mention, if it's okay.
Yeah, of course.
So just asking, has anyone seen our commercial, our TV commercial? No, no one's seen it. So we since April, we created a 30-second TV commercial that's streamed on Spectrum's streaming platform. And the metrics are in, and it's phenomenal. So since we did this in April, since the commercial has aired on Spectrum streaming platform, our website had 13,000 new visitors, increasing website views by nearly 58%. Our homepage of the website received 10,000 views, an increase of 34.6%. The commercial is about our 3-card system, and so our 3-card system page received 1,600 views, an increase of 921%. And the events page received 950 views, an increase of over 3,000%. And so this commercial is going to run through the end of June, so we're going to share all the metrics to the board by then, and then we're going to look at doing another commercial. So it seems to be very positive, very effective.
Outstanding.
Kudos to the staff for this commercial done. Well done.
Good job.
Yes, I think we can we email the CAC the copy?
Yeah, we'll definitely share with you. I believe it's on our YouTube page as well, but we'll share it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Facebook. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other CAC members have comments?
Scott, do you mind just a quick recap of the spill and recovery that happened earlier and what caused that?
Would have to bring that up, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, so on May 2nd, we had a sewer spill, unfortunately, over on Golf Course Drive. It was reported about 4,000 gallons spilled, and the healthcare agency was proactive and closed the beaches as a precautionary measure. What we found out later, that probably wasn't necessary, because as we tracked down the sewage, it did go into a storm drain channel. Then it went into the Banning channel, and then that Banning channel, there's storm drain, it dumps into the Talbot Natural Reserve. And in Talbot Natural Reserve, there's a dam in that reserve to capture all the runoff, the stormwater runoff. And when that dam reaches a certain height, they have a pump, and it pumps it into a natural pond. Well, the sewage that went to the natural reserve, it didn't raise the level where it was pumped into the pond. So that tells us it never reached the beaches. It was always at the Talbot Reserve. So it was really not necessary to close the beaches. But as you said, they made KTLA news. We got a lot of press on this.
But the reporters were very confused.
So yeah.
To justify, wait a minute, 4,000 gallons, but they captured all of it. But these reporters were going back and forth.
Yeah. But with that said, though, obviously there was, the next day, I had a briefing with staff, and we went over our operations. We saw the pictures. There were definitely lessons learned that we can get better on. And so we took notes, and so we will improve, as we go along. But yeah, it was unfortunate, but it's been our second sewer spill so far this year.
Little technical correction. The sewage didn't even make it into the Talbot marsh or channel or whatever that was. They used the
channel as a storage system, and when the park needs the water to come in and they bring it in, that pump station was turned off for the weekend. We did do bacterial testing. Most of the results came in except the BOD5, but they tend to be an indicator of how much bacteria is in the channel. What we found so far, haven't looked at the final results, it's basically stormwater in that channel. Our small amount of sewage that made it there, and with the UV from the sunlight basically kills everything. So, but it didn't make it into that pond either. Yes.
So, I mean, so did the beach need to be closed? No, but it's flip side, we understand the precautionary measures they took, so that's what they did.
They determined, say that the beach needed to be closed, would there have been additional actions that would have been required for Talbot?
It depends, it depends on a lot of factors. Was there water containing sewage pumped to that pond or not? That's they could have closed that as well.
Because what I'm saying is, it sounds like it's going from like the spill location to Banning to Talbot over the dam into the beach. So they closed.
No, it doesn't go over the dam.
Not exactly, and sorry if it wasn't that clear, and I will apologize to our general manager. I may not have made it clear to him. It goes to the Banning Channel and there it stops. There is a rubber dam across the Banning Channel. And if it spills over the top of the dam, it could go to the beach.
Is this by Hamilton or?
Yeah, Victoria, Hamilton, yeah, right. It's just north of there, about 1,500 feet or so.
Okay.
There's a rubber dam. And unless the water is spilling over that dam, it does not go to the ocean. But unless the pump station turns on, it doesn't go to that Talbot Pond in the natural preserve. It just stays in the channel there,
So
as a storage.
So if it goes over the dam,
Yes.
it goes to the ocean?
Yes,
Okay.
Well, I mean, 4,000 is such a minute amount.
that is true.
Yeah, I'm just asking.
It would never make it to the ocean even if it goes over the dam. Yeah,
I'm just trying to figure.
let's be realistic.
Yeah, and that's what, yeah, and that's what really caught us off. Why is it creating so much media attention? It's 4,000 gallons, and I guess if you're in the wastewater business, that's not a large spill, but in event, it's still a spill, and
Nikki up to KCLA so that those done.
Oh,
And tell them to file it under small, shit happens.
I mean,
It's a
Sorry,
nice beach
had to.
weekend and part of Huntington Beach.
You guys were all thinking it.
It's gonna make the news.
yeah, that's true.
you want to see big spills, go to LA
No, it's not a big deal. I'm sure it was.
or even bigger, you go to Tijuana.
They're.
And in Tijuana, they happen.
Okay, so moving right along, we're going back to any other committee member comments?
So I'm Cheyenne, happy to be here. A little bit about me. I moved to Costa Mesa after college to start my business. My boyfriend at the time, now husband, was a Vanguard student, and I was sick of doing long distance. And fell in love with living here. I feel like I've been a renter in every neighborhood in the city, which is great. Now I'm in East Side. Have been for a while. I got into our local government, started going to city council meetings in 2020, and then actually got really interested in Mesa Water. Started going to their meetings, keeping an eye on what they were doing. Didn't like some of the things they were doing, so I actually ran for one of the board seats and got 47% of the vote. And it was an amazing experience. I absolutely loved it. The worst part about it was that I didn't win, but everything else, meeting all the neighbors and knocking doors was like one of the best experiences and helped me fall in love even more with the city. That was also a great way to meet city council members, get involved there. So I am on the Parks Commission. And I feel like it's been a really rewarding experience. seeing how you can make an impact on bureaucratic processes like strategic plans and 5-year CIP plans and all that. So I'm really loving being on Parks Commission. I also got to meet a lot of the sanitary board members when I ran for Mesa Water. So just have always had a lot of respect for specifically like the transparency that this district has, like recording meetings. Having a committee like this is pretty amazing for a local government body. So I'm excited to be on the committee, and outside of my volunteer stuff, I own a business here. It's a clothing brand with my husband. So I do all the business, finance, a lot of the production operations. We have a warehouse in West Side, and our creative studio is right by the lab. So love that. Love being a business owner as well. I think there's actually a lot of overlap with government work and being a business owner. And yeah, I think that's a decent introduction. Thanks for having me.
Happy to have you. Thank you.
Well, actually, the reason why I'm here is a testament to the outreach and communication that you do. I read everything that comes in the mail. You're the one. So that's how that happened. I moved to Costa Mesa in 2011. I'm a Waldorf teacher. I have taught at the Waldorf School of Orange County behind Estancia since 2011, and I just left that. I think that as a career path actually in October, though I still do work for the association, the National Association. We're also small business owner in Costa Mesa. My husband runs an adventure van building company in Costa Mesa. And I have 4 children, and I'm like approaching empty nest and approaching kind of career change. So I just have some time on my hands, and I'm looking to broaden my field, I guess, broaden my participation in the larger community.
Welcome. We're happy
Thank you
to
so much
have
for
you.
having me. Thank you.
As a footnote to the CAC, I wanted to mention, normally when we bring on new members and people are elected or reappointed, we do have an appointment for chair and vice chair, and that typically occurs at this meeting. But since it wasn't able to occur at this meeting, it will happen at the next meeting. So just don't want you to think that that isn't happening. It's being pushed off. Any other committee members? If not,
Scary to hear people, not scary, moved here in 2011, we moved here in 1958.
That's funny. I was thinking the same thing, and I've only been here since 72. So you got me beat by 20 years.
Young in 1958.
and you guys are 2 of the pillars who have been a constant in holding the city up in many areas. And I'm not trying to kiss anybody's butt because I don't do that. And that's just a fact. So thank you to both of you. Any other board staff comments?
I want to just say welcome, and I loved what Shanna said about this. This is an unusual organization, and what you guys do, what you're able to accomplish with your staff and with the support of CSC and your board is amazing. And so thanks for pointing that out.
Okay, we will go ahead and adjourn this meeting. Our next meeting will be Wednesday, July 9th. Thanks, everybody.
Sorry about the.
Rosemary,
Yeah.
do you know where I can get a report from the state?
Do you see the sign that we?
We had a